The crystalline towers of Visara Prime reflected the twin suns like shards of captured starlight. Within the highest spire, Serena Vex stood before floor-to-ceiling windows, her violet skin gleaming in the afternoon light. Her silver eyes, characteristic of the Keltharian species, studied the datapad in her slender hands with growing irritation. Another bodyguard had failed her expectations. The third this cycle. Mistress Vex. Her assistant's voice chimed through the CUN system. The human candidate has arrived for his interview. Serena's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. A human. She'd sworn never to hire one after the Terran incident 3 years ago, when a human diplomat had nearly destroyed a multi-billion credit deal with his emotional outburst. But her options were limited, and this Marcus Stone came with recommendations that bordered on impossible. Send him up. She turned from the window, smoothing down her fitted crimson suit. The fabric, imported from the Silk Worlds, cost more than most beings earned in a year. Everything about her appearance was calculated from the platinum rings, adorning her elongated fingers to the way she carried herself with the effortless superiority of old. Money docked the elevator doors, whispered open, and Marcus Stone stepped into her office. Serena's first thought was that his file photo hadn't done him justice. Tall and broad-shouldered, he moved with a predator's grace that immediately set her nerves on edge. His face was angular, handsome in that rough human way, marred only by a scar that ran from his left eyebrow to his jaw. His eyes, a deep brown that reminded her of earth soil, swept the room with professional efficiency before settling on her. "Mistress Vex," he said, his voice a low rumble. He didn't bow, didn't show the deference she was accustomed to receiving. Instead, he offered a slight nod of acknowledgement that bordered on insulting. "Mr. Stone." She let ice creep into her tone. "Your file is impressive. Former special operations, decorated service record, expertise in close protection." She paused, circling him slowly. "It also mentions a dishonorable discharge. Care to explain?" "No." The single word hung in the air between them. Serena stopped mid-stride, genuinely surprised. In her experience, job candidates either groveled or over-explained. Marcus did neither. "No?" She repeated softly. "The circumstances are classified. If that disqualifies me, I understand." His expression remained neutral, but there was steel underneath. "But I won't discuss it." Intriguing. Against her better judgment, Serena found herself curious. "Your previous employer, Magistrate Theron, gave you a glowing recommendation. He said you saved his life twice. 3 times, actually. He doesn't know about the third." Marcus's lips quirked slightly. "The best security is the kind you never notice. And yet I notice you, Mr. Stone." She moved closer, well within what humans consider personal space, testing him. Most species would have stepped back from a Keltharian noble. Marcus held his ground. "You're rather ... obvious. Only when I choose to be." The implication sent an unexpected thrill down her spine. This human was either supremely confident or dangerously arrogant. Possibly both. "I have specific requirements," she said, returning to her desk. "My business dealings take me to dangerous sectors. I need someone who can protect me without drawing attention. Someone discreet. I can be discreet. Can you?" She pulled up a holographic display showing a crowded marketplace. "This is where we'll be next week. 47 potential threats, 19 exits, security systems that are 15 years out of date. How would you approach this?" Marcus studied the display for perhaps 30 seconds. Then he began pointing. 2 advanced scouts, positioned here and here. You enter through the eastern gate at mid-cycle when crowd density peaks harder to track you that way. I stay 3 paces behind, never at your side. Jam the local surveillance, use our own encrypted cameras. Have an extraction team on standby at exit 9, because exits 1 through 5 will be compromised. Serena blinked. He'd identified threats she hadn't even noticed, including the compromised exits. How did you know about exits 1 through 5? Because that's where I position my people if I wanted to trap someone. He met her gaze directly. You're thinking like prey, Mistress Vex. You need to think like a hunter. For the first time in years, Serena felt genuinely off balance. You're hired, she said abruptly. Starting salary is 100,000 credits per cycle. Non-negotiable. 75 is fine. She paused. I'm offering you 100,000. And I'm saying 75 is adequate for my needs. Who turned down 25,000 credits? Most people would simply accept the higher offer, Mr. Stone. I'm not most people. Something flickered in his eyes, a hint of pain quickly masked. The extra money wouldn't change my life, Mistress Vex. It would just be numbers in an account. There was a story there, Serena realized. Perhaps several stories. But she'd learned long ago not to pry too deeply into employees' personal lives. It created complications. Very well. 75,000 it is. You start tomorrow. She turned back to her window. A dismissal. My assistant will provide you with the security briefings and your quarters assignment. One condition. Serena's spine stiffened. No one dictated conditions to her. She turned slowly, her silver eyes narrowing. Excuse me? I need 2 days off per cycle, non-negotiable, and privacy regarding my personal finances. Why? Personal reasons. That phrase again. Marcus Stone was a vault of secrets, and Serena despised mysteries she couldn't solve. But something in his expression told her that pushing now would end this conversation permanently. Fine, but if your personal reasons interfere with your duties, you're terminated immediately. Clear, Crystal? After he left, Serena stood at her window for a long time, watching the city lights begin to glow as the sun set. Marcus Stone was hiding something. Possibly many things. And while her logical mind screamed warnings, another part of her apart, she'd thought long dead, whispered that this human might be exactly the kind of dangers she needed. She activated her private com. Daria, I need full surveillance on our new hire. Everything where he goes, who he contacts, how he spends his money. Of course, mistress. Should I also prepare the usual tests? Serena smiled, and this time it was genuine. Yes, let's start with something simple. I'll leave some valuables out. See if our honest human can resist temptation. When would you like to begin? Tomorrow night. I'm hosting the Vrandian delegation. Perfect timing for our Mr. Stone to reveal his true colors. As she ended the call, Serena felt a familiar tingle of anticipation. She'd broken countless employees with her tests over the years, exposing liars, thieves, and traitors. Marcus Stone would be no different. Except a small voice whispered that perhaps he would be. She silenced that voice and began playing her trap. The Vrandian delegation had been even more tedious than Serena anticipated. 3 hours of negotiating trade routes while the reptilian diplomats hissed and postured, their forked tongues tasting the air for any sign of weakness. She'd maintained her composure throughout, her silver eyes never betraying the boredom that threatened to consume her. Marcus had stood by the entrance, a silent shadow that somehow made her feel safer than an entire squadron of guards. She'd caught herself glancing at him more than necessary, noting the way his eyes constantly scanned the room, how his hand never strayed far from the weapon concealed beneath his dark jacket. Now, as the last guest departed, Serena made her way to her private study on the tower's uppermost level. She'd left her trap carefully arranged, a collection of viridian gemstones scattered across her desk, each worth enough to buy a small ship. The surveillance system was active, hidden cameras tracking every angle of the room. Daria? She murmured into her comm as she entered her sleeping chamber adjacent to the study. Status on our guest? Mr. Stone is currently stationed outside your study, mistress. He's been there for 47 minutes without moving. Good. Initiate the distraction protocol in 10 minutes. Let's see what he does when he thinks he's alone. Serena changed out of her formal attire, selecting a flowing silver gown that matched her eyes. She told herself it was simply more comfortable, not that she cared what the human thought of her appearance. Through the hidden monitor in her bedroom wall, she watched Marcus standing guard. His posture perfect despite the late hour. The alert came through on his wrist device. Exactly 10 minutes later, a fabricated emergency in the lower levels, requiring immediate security response. Serena held her breath, watching. Marcus checked the alert, his brow furrowing. He glanced at the study door, then at the corridor leading to the emergency. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he tapped his cone. Stone to Central Security. Confirm emergency on level 42. Confirmed, sir. Fire suppression system malfunction. We need all hands. Marcus's jaw tightened. He looked at the study door again, and Serena could almost see the calculation in his eyes. Finally, he spoke into his cone. Negative. I'm not leaving my post. Send someone else. Serena's eyes widened. He wasn't taking the bait. Sir, this is a direct order from... I don't care if it's an order from the Celestial Emperor himself. My job is to protect Mistress Vex, and I don't abandon my post. Handle it yourselves. He ended the communication and resumed his stance by the door. Serena stared at the monitor, her carefully laid plan crumbling. She'd expected him to investigate the emergency, giving her the opportunity to catch him with the gemstones. Instead, he'd refused to leave. Frustrated, she activated another protocol, a more direct approach. The door to her study would appear to malfunction, opening slightly. An invitation too obvious to ignore. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Marcus immediately went alert, his weapon drawn in a fluid motion that spoke of countless hours of training. He approached cautiously, checking the corridor before stepping into the study. From her hidden vantage point, Serena watched him enter. His eyes swept the room and immediately locked on to the gemstones scattered across her desk. He holstered his weapon and moved closer, his expression unreadable. This was it. The moment of truth. Marcus reached out and picked up one of the viridian stones, holding it up to the light. The gem cast rainbow patterns across his scarred face. Then he set it down and reached for his comb. Stone to Mistress Vex. Your study door malfunctioned, and there are valuable items left unsecured. I'm going to lock them in your safe and repair the door. Thought you should know. Serena's breath caught. He was asking permission? She grabbed her own comb. I'm in my quarters, Mr. Stone. The safe code is 739 Alpha 4. Proceed. She watched as he carefully gathered the gemstones, treating each one with surprising gentleness for such large hands. He moved to her wall safe a device he shouldn't have been able to locate, as it was disguised as part of the decorative paneling. Yet he went directly to it, entering the code she'd provided. But then something unexpected happened. As Marcus secured the gemstones, his eyes fell on a photograph displayed on the shelf beside the safe. Serena's heart lurched. It was an old image, one she'd forgotten was there herself as a youngling, standing between her parents before the plague had taken them. Marcus stared at the photo for a long minute, and something in his expression softened. Pain, perhaps. Recognition of loss. When he stepped back, his movements were somehow more careful, more respectful, as if he understood he was in a space filled with more than just material wealth. He secured the safe, repaired the door mechanism with tools from his belt, and returned to his post outside. Serena stood motionless in her bedroom, her mind racing. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. He should have taken the bait, should have revealed some flaw she could exploit to justify her suspicions about humans. Instead, he'd done exactly what a perfect bodyguard should do. And that photograph. The way he'd looked at it, as if he understood. Before she could second-guess herself, Serena walked out of her bedroom and into the study. Marcus immediately straightened as she emerged. "Mistress Vex, I apologize for entering your private space, but the door malfunctioned," she interrupted, her voice cool. "How did you repair it so quickly?" "The mechanism was jammed." "Simple fix, was it?" She moved past him to examine the door. The jam had been quite sophisticated, designed by her best technician. Yet Marcus had solved it in under 2 minutes. "You seem remarkably skilled with Caltharian technology for a human." Something flickered in his eyes. "I've worked for several Caltharian employers." "You learn. And the safe? How did you know where it was?" "Standard wealthy merchant setup. Security panel, disguised as art, safe behind decorative wall sections. There are only so many variations." Serena turned to face him fully, searching his expression for any hint of deception. "You didn't have to call me. You could have simply secured the items and said nothing. That would have been dishonest. Most people in your position would have at least been tempted by the value of those stones." Marcus met her gaze steadily. "I'm not most people, Mistress Vex. You already know that." The echo of his earlier words sent an unexpected warmth through her chest. She found herself moving closer, drawn by something she couldn't quite name. "Why did you stare at my photograph?" His expression shifted, becoming guarded. "I apologize if that was intrusive. That's not an answer." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, quietly, "You looked happy." "In the photo? It reminded me of someone I knew once." "Someone you lost?" "Everyone loses someone, Mistress Vex." His voice carried an edge of pain that resonated with her own buried grief. "The question is whether we let it define us." Serena felt something crack in the carefully constructed walls around her heart. This human, this supposed simple bodyguard, understood loss in a way most beings couldn't. She saw it in his eyes, in the set of his shoulders, the weight of memories that never quite faded. "Those gemstones," she said softly. "They were a test." Marcus's expression didn't change. "I know. You knew?" The door malfunction, the suspicious timing, the conveniently scattered valuables? A slight smile tugged at his lips. "Mistress Vex, I've been tested by every employer I've ever had. You're not as subtle as you think." Heat flooded her cheeks, a Caltharian blush that turned her violet skin a deeper purple. "I see, and yet you played along. I understood why you did it. Trust isn't given freely in your position. It's earned." He paused. "Though I'll admit, I'm curious how many more tests you have planned." Serena realized she had no answer. His directness had completely disarmed her usual strategies. "You're remarkably perceptive, Mr. Stone." "Marcus," he said. "If we're going to be honest with each other, you might as well use my name. Marcus." The word felt strange on her tongue, intimate in a way that titles never were. "Very well. And you may call me Serena when we're alone." His eyebrows rose slightly. "That's quite an honor. Don't let it go to your head." But she softened the words with a small smile. "Tell me something, Marcus. Those 2 days off you requested, and the privacy about your finances. What are you hiding?" "Not hiding, protecting." He hesitated, then seemed to make a decision. "I send most of my salary to a refuge shelter in the Outer Rim. War orphans mostly. Kids who lost everything and have no one." Serena stared at him, certain she'd misheard. "You send your money to alien children?" 70% of it? Yes. But why? They're not your species, not your responsibility. Marcus's expression hardened slightly. "They're children, Serena. That makes them everyone's responsibility." He looked away. I saw things during my service. Things I can't undo. But I can maybe prevent some kids from experiencing the same horrors. The raw honesty in his voice struck something deep within her. Here was a human species she'd dismissed as emotionally unstable and self-serving, sacrificing his own comfort for beings he'd never met. It contradicted everything she'd been taught, everything she'd believed. I judged you, she said quietly. I judged your entire species based on one bad experience. Most people do. He turned back to her, and there was no accusation in his eyes, only understanding. We're the newcomers, the ones who don't fit established patterns. Fear of the unknown is natural. It's not an excuse. No, he agreed, but it's a starting point for change. They stood in the quiet study, the city lights of Visara Prime glittering beyond the windows. Serena felt something shifting between them, a connection forming that went beyond employer and employee. It terrified her. The shelter, she heard herself say. What's it called? Haven's End. It's on a moon called Creche 7. Nothing special, just prefab buildings and determination. I'd like to see it. Marcus's surprise was evident. You want to visit a refugee shelter? Is that so hard to believe? Honestly? Yes. But there was warmth in his voice now, something that made her pulse quicken. But I'd be glad to show you. If you're serious, I'm always serious, Marcus. She moved toward the door, then paused. And Marcus? No more tests. You've proven yourself. Have I? She looked back at him, at this scarred human with secrets and sorrows, and an impossible kindness buried beneath his warrior's exterior. Yes, you have. As she returned to her bedroom, Serena's mind raced. She'd set out to expose a flaw in her new bodyguard. Instead, she'd discovered something far more dangerous, that Marcus Stone was exactly as genuine as he appeared. And that terrified her more than any deception ever could, because genuine people, in her experience, were the ones who could hurt you most.